Since the early 2000s, Singapore has ramped up the hosting of world-class sporting events from motorsports to golf to tennis. These events received rave reviews and, like the Singapore Grand Prix, are also trailblazers in their own right.
Behind me is the F1 pit building, which is part of the circuit of the Singapore Formula One race. Close to 100,000 spectators watch the event during race week every September, while millions around the world catch the event on television. Racing at night, under the lights, with the Singapore skyline as a backdrop, has really made the Singapore race one of the favourites on the F1 calendar.
That's why F1 Supremo Bernie Ecclestone described the world's first F1 night race in 2008 as the jewel in the crown. It was a hit with everyone, including the drivers, and the event not only put Singapore on the world sporting map, but also attracted a huge following among foreign visitors.
And we are very fortunate that the race has been great for us in terms of attracting tourists to Singapore. So about 50% of all visitors to the circuit are actually foreigners. And out of that, we actually enjoy quite a good and healthy numbers from ASEAN.
STB adds that the stellar lineup of entertainment that is packaged with the motorsports action is a real hit with the ASEAN fans. But the off-track action does not end there, as the organisers take full advantage of the downtown location of the race.
We actually create a whole season called the Grand Prix Season Singapore, where we hope to bring the excitement of the race into the key tourist precincts which surround the circuit. So places like Clarke Quay, places like Orchard Road. And what happens is that within the Grand Prix Season Singapore, we create entertainment and nightlife. There are dining options, there are retail options, there are events like Amber Lounge, Podium Lounge, etc., which would then attract some of these ASEAN tourists who are looking for the other leisure entertainment options, right?
Tourism dollars aside, the staging of such events has also seen a growing number of Singapore homegrown sports events companies specialising in logistics to talent management, exporting such expertise to ASEAN countries. Former national footballer R. Sasikumar, who now runs his own integrated sports marketing company Red Card, based in Singapore, sees the potential of doing business within ASEAN.
It's obviously exciting sitting in in the Southeast Asian belt where there are almost 600 million people. I think the bigger markets are actually outside of Singapore. If you're looking at doing large-scale events, Singapore is just probably not big enough a size to attain that kind of size. But being in the ASEAN region allows you then to scale across the various markets, and that's where we've been actively looking at. To filling the gap there, and we have had some joy in the last 2 years where we have expanded into Malaysia. Now we are into Indonesia next month, and we already have representation in Thailand and Vietnam, and next will be to Philippines as well.
And in the sports calendar, the highlight for the ASEAN population must be the Southeast Asian Games. In 2015, Singapore hosted the Games at its new sports hub. What a show it proved to be, from the opening ceremony to the competition venues and even the downtown hotels acting as the Games Village. All of these were a hit with athletes, officials and spectators from Singapore and beyond. The celebrations went beyond the organisation of the Games, and a record medal haul by the Singapore athletes, which came in second in the medal standing behind Thailand. Equally significant was that the Games brought the athletes and the people of Southeast Asia together. The village in a city concept, where hotels in town were used to house the athletes, allowed the visiting athletes, officials and supporters to easily explore the city and interact with each other and with the local community.
Another aspect was we recognized that there is a significant proportion of residents in Singapore who come from Southeast Asia. And as part of the organizing functions, we actually reached out to their local representatives through the embassies, and we organized for them to come to the games. We were delighted here to see people from Myanmar, from Thailand, from Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia coming out, Philippines coming out in force to support their athletes in different sports. So we were, for example, in the football final, Thailand versus Myanmar, we had a stadium filled with 30,000 fans from both countries, and I think that is a testament to the success of trying to bring people together.
Mr. Lim added there was also cooperation with Singapore's ASEAN neighbours in the overall organisation of the Games. Before the June 2015 Games, test events were held and athletes from the region took part in sports such as aquatics, basketball and silat. And even the creative side of the event got some help from the other countries.
In the creative direction for the Games, even when you look at the creative team for the opening ceremony, it was not just a team of Singaporeans. There were a team of people from Malaysia, from Thailand, who were part of that creative direction. Similarly, we saw that further extension in the ASEAN Para Games, where in the creative direction of the opening and closing ceremonies, we had performers, we had artists who came from the different Southeast Asian countries.
Sharing was mutual, as Singapore had also learned from the previous host of the Games, Myanmar, which staged the event in 2013. Myanmar officials shared with the Singaporean organising team their experience in areas such as transportation, broadcasting, accommodation and competition venues. The next host in 2017, Malaysia, can expect the same sharing of experience and knowledge. Already, there is an ongoing exchange, including how the Malaysian organisers can use the resources of volunteers when they hold the SEA Games next year.
While cooperation is already happening at different levels and through different channels, ASEAN is set to get a further boost in working more closely as a region with the recent announcement of the ASEAN Economic Community, or AEC, launched in December 2015. Now, it's too early to see any real tangible benefits, but Singapore organisations like Sport Singapore and Singapore Tourism Board, along with private sector organisations, see this potential and are keen to tap this growth market.